We are Group 4 and today we want to present Marginalist School, and our group members have 6 members in a group, and our question is discuss the Marginalist School 5 major questions and contribution of William Stanley Jevons, Tom Austin Connor and Francis White Edward developing the ideas of that school. And look for our table of content. We have 8 parts for our PowerPoint.
Hi, my name is Anzi, matric number 286537. Now I'm going to explain about the introduction of Marginalist School. In the main figure, the Marginalist School begins in 1871 when Jones and Margin published their influential book on marginal utility theory. The forerunner Anthony Kennan and Jules Dupin pioneered the use of the marginal analysis in economy. In the second generation, Edward and Crash expand further the theories of marginal utility. The Marginalist School support the laissez-faire system and the deductive approach contrast with German historical school, which support government intervention and deductive approach. Marginalist was the only transitional period between the classical and neoclassical school. This school eventually became part of neoclassical economics or contemporary microeconomics. The next part, historical background. Serious economic and social problems remain unsolved even 100 years after the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. Firstly, poverty was widely spread although the productivity was increasing dramatically. Secondly, the extremely uneven distribution of wealth and incomes creates so much disintegration even though the general standard of living was rising. Thirdly, business fluctuation affect many people which individuals could no longer depend on their initiative and ability to overcome their condition. Fourthly, farmers and farm laborers have their difficulties and cause them to immigrate into city to find work. The longer working hours, dangerous and unhealthy working conditions, the dominant powers of employers in bargaining with workers, the rise of monopolist powers, and insecure old age cause people to find the solution beyond the classical economic thinking. Next part, the trend of 19th century in era was developed 3 approaches to overcome social problems. First one is promote socialism. Second one is further the trend unionism. Third one is to demand government intervention in the economy to regulating the economy, eliminating abuse, and redistribute the income. The marginalists support the classical school laissez-faire so they oppose all three solutions that I explained just now. They believe that although the value and distribution theories of the classical economists were inaccurate, but their policies is suitable. The marginalists defend marketing, allocation, and distribution, explore government intervention, denounce socialism, and so to discourage labor unionism as neither ineffective or pernicious.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Lim Siyan, matrix number 2XX327. Now I'm going to present the 10 major tenets of the school. First, focus on the margin. Concentrated on the margin, where decisions are made to explain economic phenomena, extending the marginal principle in Ricardo's theory of rent to all economic theory. According to Ricardo, rent arises as the difference between production of marginal land and superior land, as there is general tendency to move from the most fertile land, which attract the highest rent, to the less fertile land. A point comes up where no rent occurs to what is called a marginal land. Let's see the diagram below. We assume that there are 4 types of land, classified based on its fertility, A, B, C, and D, in descending order of their fertility. A grade of land will be cultivated first. With particular amount of labor and capital, let us assume that it yields 60 quintal of corn per acre. Now when A grade of land is harvested, then B grade of land will be cultivated. Now, with the same amount of labor and capital, we assume that it yields 50 quintal of corn per acre. Now, as user of A grade land enjoys a plus of 10 quintal of corn, so they must pay rent equal to 10. Same way, when B grade of land is exhausted, then C grade of land will be cultivated, and now it will be marginal land and differential rent will occur to A grade to B grade land. This can be seen from the table given below. 2. Rational economic behavior. These marginalists assume that people act rationally in balancing marginal benefit and marginal cost, pleasures and pain, in measuring marginal utilities of different goods, in balancing present against future needs. Additionally, they believe that intentional behavior is regular and normal, and that random abnormalities will cancel one another out. The utilitarian philosophy of Jeremy Bentham, on which the marginalist method was based, held that the primary motivation for human conduct is to seek utility and avoid disutility. All consumer goods cause individually different benefits and have a diminishing marginal use. For the example below, the additional utility of every additional unit of a good is lower compared to the one of the previous unit, while the saturation level of each good is different. This idea can be graphically shown by a marginal utility curve. 3. Microeconomic emphasis. The marginalist approach was microeconomics rather than macroeconomics. Instead of considering the aggregate economy or macroeconomics, the marginalists considered individual decision-making, market conditions for a single type of good, the output of specific firms, and so forth. 4. The use of abstract deductive approach. The marginalists rejected the historical method, German historical school, in favor of analytical, abstract, and deductive approach. Ricardo started with basic premise and used logic to deduce generalizations. He frequently bases his argument on limiting hypotheses. Several marginalist school members advocated the partial equilibrium analysis method. This is useful for abstracting from the complexity of the real world in order to better understand it. Ceteris paribus approach allows one variable to change at a time while keeping all other variables momentarily constant. This helps the investigator to dissect complex phenomena one step at a time. For deductive methods, first, deducing hypotheses from theory. Second, formulating hypotheses in operational terms and proposing relationships between two specific variables. Lastly, testing hypotheses with the application of relevant method. A simple example: a cat has 4 legs. Sharupet is a cat, so Sharupet has 4 legs. 5. The pure competition emphasized. The marginalists base their analysis on the assumption of perfect competition. The world is small, individualistic, independent entrepreneurs, numerous buyers, many sellers, homogeneous products, uniform price, and no advertising. No person or firm has enough economic power to influence the market price. Individuals can adapt their own action to demand, supply, and price through the interaction of thousands of people. 6. Demand-oriented price theory. The classical economists emphasize supply as the primary determinant of price, while the marginalists view demand as the primary determinant of price. The neoclassical school emphasized both supply and demand as the significant determinant of price. Demand represents the willingness of customer to pay, which comes from customer taste, interest, and preference. The theory states that the higher the price of a product is, the demand will be less, inferring a downward sloping demand curve as the graph below. The more demand that occurs, the greater the price will be given for a supply. 7. Emphasize on subjective utility. Demand depends on marginal utility, which is a subjective psychological phenomenon. This means that the utility or satisfaction given to an individual based upon his personal judgment and desires rather than upon the market judgment. For example, teachers give Aiman and Nurul each 3 apples. Nurul is happier than Aiman. This shows that the level of satisfaction of Nurul is higher than Aiman when they both get the same amount of apples. Subjective utility is not standard, and every individual will obtain a different level of utility from the consumption of the same good. The diagram shows the total utility and the marginal utility curve. It is clear that marginal utility is 0 when the total utility reaches its maximum point. Marginal utility is the slope of the total utility curve. Total utility is the amount of utility which a consumer gains from the consumption of certain goods and services. It is the total satisfaction that a consumer gains from all units that they consume. 8. Equilibrium approach. Marginalists believe that economic forces generally tend toward equilibrium, the balancing of opposing forces. Whenever disturbance causes dislocation, new movement towards equilibrium occurs. As the diagram shown below, MB equal to MC is the optimal price point because it's when the producer recovers all the costs of production, consumer pay the lowest possible price. It is also when both consumer and producer surplus are maximized. For the consumer, it's the area below the marginal benefits curve and above the price. And for the producer, it is the one above the marginal cost curve and below the price. 9. Merger of land and capital good. The marginalist theory generally included land with other capital goods and combined rent to the landowner with interest theory refuting the implication in the labor theory of value that rent was unearned income. For example, the return on property resources is represented by interest, rent, and profits. 10. Minimal government involvement. The marginalists continue the classical school defense of minimal government involvement in the economy as the most desirable policy. In most cases, no interference with natural economics law was in order if maximum social benefits were to be realized. Economy policy covered a wide range of measures, which government used to manage their economy. For example, monetary policy, taxation, budget, and job creation. In order to realize the maximum social benefits, the government should maximize this economic policy. That's all for me. Thank you.
Now I want to present who did the marginalist benefit or seek to benefit. The marginalists sought to advance the interest rate of all the humankind. This means that the marginalists will bring the benefit for all the humankind. And for better understanding for the free market system, we can see the first one is efficiently allocate resources, and the second is promote economy liberty. And we separate the humankind in 5 parts. First part is worker, and the worker is always receive the wages same with their contribution. And the second is those who resist changes. For this kind of people, they don't want to change anything, and they always want to maintain their status quo. And the third is employer. Employer, by opposing union, by attributing unemployment to wages, they will artificially high and inflexible downward. Next is landowner. And this marginalists protect the landowner away from the attack based on the Ricardian rent theory. Last is wealthy people. Wealthy people need marginalists to opposite to government intervention. They might do redistribution income. They want to opposite the government intervention to rearrange their wealthy. Now I want to present how was the marginalist school valid, useful, or correct in its time. First is develop new and powerful tool of analysis. The tool of analysis is like geometric diagram and mathematical technique, and the tools make the economy become a more adept social science. Second is the importance of demand in determining price. Okay, condition of demand is very important because it can be determined from price of both final goods and factor of production. And the classic economy is emphasized only on supply, and it is cost of production as a significant determinant of exchange value. And that is the fundamental assumption underlying economic analysis, as opposed to being left lurking in the background as did many of the classical economists. Next is partial equilibrium analysis, useful for extracting from the complexity of the real world and allowing one variable at a time to change and other variable holding constant temporarily. Last, the microeconomic approach help complement the macroeconomic approach. Macroeconomy may have many problems by viewing the economy as a whole. For example, a certain group of people will be very increasingly poverty, but the average real per capita income for the nation may be increasing. And this is the problem for the macroeconomy, so that we need the microeconomic approach to help to complement the macroeconomic problem.
Hi, my name is Gao Xingjie, metric number 289771. I'm going to explain which tenets of the marginalist school become lasting contributions. So first, here is the outdated marginalist and neoclassical employment theory that become lasting contribution of the marginalist school. It is the Leach fallacy of composition associated with marginalist and classical employment theory. So, when one firm was to cut the wages, it could expand its market by selling more goods at lower prices. This the decline in purchasing power among its own employees would not affect it because they normally buy only a negligible portion of its output. But if all firms were to cut wages, their market shrinking rather than expanding. Then in the Keynesian view that there are alternative means to reductions in nominal wage to achieve full employment. Okay, so we come to the next tenet. The next tenet is the outdated pure competition. After the 1870s, the assumption of pure competition is too restrictive to be useful as competition declined. Then, this assumption became outdated as new events transpire and new economic theories developed. So, as we can see on the figure, after pure competition, the monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and pure monopoly has become imperfect competition. The next is the marginalist failed to explain economic growth and business cycle, and its theory proved to be inadequate for slowly developing countries. Then the business cycles analysis was also neglected in proving that supply creates its own demand and therefore full employment is the rule. The next tenet is the outdated deductive methods. The deductive method used by marginalists was static, timeless, and unsubstantiated with empirical evidence, and it was challenged by inductive methods from German historical school. The lasting contribution of the marginalist school is that many of marginalist theories still can be found in contemporary textbooks on principles of economics and microeconomics. Then, among the contributions of the schools are mathematical economics, the basic monopoly model, a theory of duopoly, the theory of diminishing marginal utility, the theory of rational consumer choice, the law of demand, the law of diminishing marginal returns, and so on. Next, I will introduce the important economists of marginalists. Firstly, I will introduce Anthony Augustin Cornut. He was born in Great France, and among his achievements, he was the mathematician who published treatises on mathematics, philosophy, and economics. Cornut was the first to develop concise mathematical models of pure monopoly, duopoly, and pure competition, but his pioneering work was neglected until after his death. He was also the first to develop the earliest complete model of the derived demand for resources. Cornut was a forerunner to the marginalist school on the rates of change of total cost and revenue functions. Then his contribution to economic analysis were the theory of pure monopoly and theory of duopoly. Among Cornut's contributions, I'm going to introduce the theory of monopoly. Cornut is the first economist to derive the proposition that a firm can maximize its profit by setting a price at which marginal revenue equal to marginal cost, which is MR equal to MC. So based on the graph A, total profit will be maximized at the quantity of output where total revenue TR, which is P times Q, is the greatest, where at this point MR equal to 0. Then in graph A, MR lies below the AR curve because lower price applies to all units, not just the extra ones sold. So each additional unit sold will add its own price to TR, the total revenue, but if extra unit had not been offered for sale, the price will received on other units would have been higher. The loss of this potential revenue must be subtracted from the gain in revenue through the sales of other extra units. The seller would charge 100 francs per unit, however, he would sell only 65 units, so the total revenue would be 6,500 francs, assuming that the total cost is 0. Okay, then let us look at the graph B. The monopolist would try and error until the price settles at the 60 francs. At 60 francs, the buyer will purchase 200 units and the TR will rise to 12,000 francs. This is the monopolist's maximum TR, which is the total revenue. So, at the monopolist's maximum TR, the MR will equal to MC, which also equal to 0, where the profit maximizing condition is fulfilled. So, at graph B, any price below or above 60 francs will reduce the TR. Cornut extended his theory to the condition where MC are positive. According to him, the monopolist facing positive costs will maximize profits when the TR minus TC at the level of output where MR equal to MC. This rule applies in situations where numerous competitors exist.
Good day, doctor. My name is Yen Ting, metric number 2X6411. So I will present the background and contribution of William Stanley Jevons. William Stanley Jevons was born in Liverpool, England. Jevons attended University College London to study chemistry and botany. After his father company declared bankruptcy in 1847, Jevons quit his study to work as an assayer in Sydney, in Australia. For 5 years he remained there. Upon his return to England, he continued his study at UCL. He published several books on logic and became a professor of logic, political economy, and philosophy. He also invented the logic machine, famous as a historian of science. He is the first economist to construct index number. Jevons was extremely introverted and did not have a great influence on his immediate peers or students. Jevons on value theory. Jevons stated that value depends entirely upon utility. Labor is frequently shown to determine value. Jevons of the marginalist school thought that the pearls have value because consumers benefit from them and get utility. In contrast to Ricardo of the classical school, who may argue that pearls have worth because people must die for them as the part of the cost of production. The quantity of pearls that people now own determines the precise level of utility linked with the pearls. Therefore, the law of diminishing marginal utility must be started first to understand his value theory. Then we will be attending to notion of rational consumer behavior, individual and market exchange, and more. Jevons on value theory is divided into four. They are the theory of diminishing marginal utility, rational choice, the equal marginal rule, the theory of exchange, and Jevons on labor. We must understand the theory of diminishing marginal utility before proceeding to another theory. Theory of diminishing marginal utility. The utility cannot be directly measured, at least with the available tools. Only by studying human behavior and taking note of human preference can utility be estimated. A single individual can compare the marginal utilities of many goods as well as the utility of successive units of a single good. Diminishing marginal utility is the decrease in satisfaction a consumer has from the consumption of each extra unit of a good or service. The formula for marginal utility is equal to change in total utility divided by the change in number of units consumed. As we can see from the diagram, when more units are consumed will lead to additional satisfaction force. As more commodity is used, marginal utility, which is akin to Jevons' final degree of utility, decrease. Rational choice, the equal marginal rule. The notion of final utility, marginal utility formalizes a general theory of rational choice. The consumer wishing to maximize utility will allocate money income in such a way that the marginal utility of the last dollar spent on all commodity is equal. Symbolically, MUX divided by PX equals MUY divided by PY. For example, when the ratio of the marginal utility of X to its price is greater than for Y, a rational consumer will purchase more of X and less of Y. The MUX will decrease and MUX divided by PX also will decrease. The consumer will continue to consume good X until MUX divided by PX equals MUY divided by PY. Theory of exchange. Principle of utility maximization to explain the gains from exchange. Assume, according to Jevons, that one party, the trading body, possesses A only has beef and B only has corn. The equal marginal rule comes into play to ensure that exchange will benefit each. For example, if party A only has beef, the marginal utility of the beef to its price ratio will be low, while the marginal utility of the corn to its price ratio will be high. The equal marginal rule suggests correctly that party A will succeed by getting corn and quitting beef. The situation for party B is similar. J1s on labor. Utility to be the determinant of exchange value. J1s refuted the labor theory of value and stated that labor cannot control value since it has infinitely variable quality and efficiency and hence has unequal worth. Labor itself is a subjective, physiological cause, a painful exertion. To satisfy our wants with the least possible sum of labor is a crux of the economy challenge. To do this, the employee must contrast the joy of earning money with the hardship of working. Gibbons presented his theory of the optimal amount of work graphically as shown in figure J1's equilibrium between the pain of work and the pressure of earning. The line or X represents the potential amount of product that the worker can earn in a working day given some hourly wage rate. MUE means marginal utility of the earnings and MDUW means marginal utility of work. The point above the line or X measures pressure. In contrast, the point below it measures the pain. On the curve MDUW, the point B, there is neither pressure nor pain. The pain of additional work increases at point C. The MUE is downward sloping, reflecting the law of diminishing marginal utility. At M, where QM is equal to DM, the pressure gained from the earning associated with the last unit of work is exactly equals to the pain of the labor endured. There is MUE is equal to MDUW. In conclusion, M is the optimal amount of work that a worker can earn in a workday. Recall that J1's held utility to be the determinant of exchange value. He expressed his concept in this principle in the following way: there is cost of production determines supply, supply determines the final degree of utility, and the final degree of utility determines value. And the last one, let's do the recapitulation of J1's thinking. J1's held that exchange value is determined by marginal utility. Change in exchange value can result from a change in people's preference for commodity, the value of labor employed to create them, and the final degree of utility of the product. That's all from me. Thank you, Doctor.
Good day, Doctor. I'm Lo Yan Ying, metric number 2x6075. I will continue the presentation about third important economics, which is Francis Y. Edwards. Edwards was born in Ireland in 1845 and died in 1926. He studied at Oxford University and later became the Tuck Professor of Political Economics at Oxford. He was also one of the founders of the Royal Economic Society, and he was editor of the Economic Journal for 35 years and served as the president of the Statistical Society, and he was a fellow of the British Academy. Now I would like to talk about Edwards' contribution to economics. First of all, Edwards' contribution to economics are found in his Mathematical Physics, an article under the title Papers Relating to Political Economy. He also used of mathematics within the discipline that contribute to modern economics. Next, he came up with the concept of indifferent curve. Edwards is one of the first economists to discuss the pricing behavior of oligopolies and clarify the difference between the average and marginal product. Next is indifferent curve and exchange. In mathematical physics, Edwards introduced the concept of curve of indifference, which show the various combinations of two items that will yield the same level of utility to an individual. To analyze an isolated exchange between the two sole possessors of products, which is Friday and Crusoe, Friday has labor, which is X2, whereas Crusoe has money, X1. From this table, we can know that Friday has labor and Crusoe has money. The indifferent curves 1, 2, and 3 represent Friday's indifferent map. and the indifferent curve 1, Roman 1, 2, and Roman 3 represent crucial indifferent math. For Friday, he preferred the indifferent curve farther to the east, while Crusoe preferred indifferent curve farther to the north. Friday preferred east because curve 2 yields greater total utility than curve 1, and curve 3 more than 2, while Crusoe preferred north because curve 2 yields greater total utilities than curve 1, and curve Roman 3 more than Roman 2. He has concluded that the price of Friday's labor in terms of Crusoe money is subject to bargaining. This is because Edward said that at all points other than those on the line ABC, either Friday or Crusoe can add to his utility without lessening the utility gained by the other party. This can be seen by the point D on Friday's indifferent curves 1 and Crusoe indifferent curve Roman 1. So, Friday still living on his indifferent curve 1, while Crusoe can attain curve Roman 3 rather than curve Roman 1 at point A. Or we can look at the Friday perspective. Friday can achieve the higher utility associated with his indifferent curve 3 at C without reducing Crusoe utility, that the utility of Crusoe remain on curve Roman 1. There are two traders who will push them to the contract curve. In this situation, Friday would prefer C on this curve because it would place him on indifferent curve 3, but Crusoe would prefer A because that would provide him more utility than at either point B or C. So the final contract between the two traders is indeterminate. Any point on the contract curve is a possible point of equilibrium, and the final outcome will occur through bargaining. Next, we will discuss about the marginal product, which is MP, versus average product, which is AP. The relationship between total product, marginal product, and average product for a competitive firm operating in the short run with the two input, which are the variable resource labor L and the fixed resource capital K. As we can see, graph A shows a short-run production function and graph B shows the marginal product and average product of labor that correspond with the total product curve shown in the graph A. Marginal product is the change in total product associated with the change in the labor input. We can find that by drawing a straight line such as MM, which is the tangent to the total product curve, at any point and determining the slope of the line. And then average product can be found by drawing a straight line from the origin to any point on the total product curve. Next is the relationship between total product TP, marginal product MP, and average product AP. When total product is rising at an increasing rate, marginal product is rising and is above average product. Because marginal product is greater than average product is also rising. This is because whenever a number that is greater than the average is added to a total, the average must also rise. When total product rises at a decreasing rate, marginal product will fall. This shows diminishing marginal return occur. Because marginal product is smaller than average product will decreasing. This relationship is very important in the contemporary macroeconomic theory. For example, they explain the shape of the short-run cost curve for typical firms, are the basis of the marginal productivity theory of the demand for resource, and underline the marginal productivity theory of income distribution.
Now I want to present conclusion. Being of the Marginalist School 1871, William Stanley Jevons and Carl Menger published their influential book on marginal utility theory. Second is the Marginalist School. Opposed socialist ideology and government intervention in the economy, and re-emphasize use of laissez-faire system pioneered by the classic school. And the marginalist school sought to advance the interests of all humankind and efficiently allocate resources and promote economic liberty. And theory for the marginalist school can be found in contemporary textbooks on principles of economy and microeconomy. Example, theory of monopoly and duopoly, theory of value and indifferent curve and exchange, and the difference between average and marginal product. Marginal analysis applied to the whole body of microeconomics progress in mathematization of economy, only input to a new era of economic thinking, neoclassical economy, which produced a complete and consistent new microeconomic theory. But marginalism was only a transitory period between classical and neoclassical school.